Well, hello and welcome back to yet another edition of Daily Encouragements. Hopefully, you've had yourself a great day yesterday, or if you're watching this at night, you had a great day today. Whatever it is, I hope that you're doing all right. I thank you for taking the time to join us here on our YouTube channel. If you're new to this, basically, I'm putting out videos in an attempt to trying to be an encouragement. As you see pictured on here, you see a Bible. We try to use biblical principles, try to teach those or reinforce them. I know everybody that watches this won't necessarily be a Christian or be an active Christian, or maybe they'll be a spiritual person, whatever it might be. But you'll be someone that hopefully is looking to be encouraged, and that's what I intend to do. Now, in my attempt to be encouraging, may sometimes say some things that may be a little pointed, a little more intense, so to speak. But the goal and the purpose is, as I look at a world that we've got around us, I try to take the time to provide what I think is encouragement, and hopefully will take the time to be a blessing to you. Today, what I'm providing is going to be some thoughts from a verse of the day, so to speak, that one of the Bible apps I use. It will recommend a verse of the day, something that's supposed to encourage and give you encouragement through your day and kind of keep you thinking or so. And so today's verse is Psalm 27:4. The verse itself says, "One thing have I desired of the Lord, that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord and to inquire in his temple." Now, the 27th Psalm is one that I remember learning actually in my first year in college. It might have been my second year, actually. It was my first semester in a class that was taught known as the Ministerial Seminar. It was for those who were in the school that were primarily intending to be Bible majors. There were some that just took it to kind of learn more about uh, just different things, that whatever the topic was for the preachers for that particular semester. But there would be a Bible passage that they would learn, and the 27th Psalm, verses 1 through 12, was the passage that we first learned. It might have been through 14, but it was that passage that we learned. With that being said, the key verse, not the key verse, but the verse that was brought up for today in the app that I use said Psalm 27:4. So we'll go ahead and use that verse. Now, I may in the future go over multiple or more of the passage so that you can get context of the passage. Because sometimes when you look at a verse in the Bible, you want to kind of get who wrote it, why did they write it, what other verses around it would help kind of define what is the reason why this verse is saying what it is. And while I think that's a positive practice, and that's something I will look to do in the future, for today we'll just look at verse 4 and to try to take some, again, practical pieces from it, and how can we be encouraged today. Well, again, the writer of the psalm, the first verse says that it's a psalm of David, so we're going to go with the thought that David, who, if you know any stories from the Bible, you've heard of David. David and Goliath would be one of the more known stories. David being a king, and some of the unfortunate ones you hear about are David and Bathsheba, um, and or that's one of the that's one of them. But it's the idea, you know who David is, and David is said in the Bible to have a heart that was it was a man after God's own heart, is what the some of the sayings are said. So this is someone that really desired to have a close relationship with the Lord, and that's kind of what this verse is saying. If you look at it, it says, "One thing have I desired of the Lord, that will I seek after." Now, when you think about that idea, it's not saying this was the only thing, but it was one key thing. It's like if you listen to a preacher, and I think I've even said this on a couple of the videos, so you'll say the phrase, if you get nothing else out of what I'm telling you, please grab a hold of this. It means that you've probably had multiple points but this one you feel like maybe one of the more key ones. Maybe it's the easiest one to apply to your life, or maybe it's the most uh, relevant one to whatever is the message being delivered. Uh, in this particular instance, um, you'll see that it says there's one thing I desire of the Lord, that will I seek after, and it says that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life. Now, sometimes people take this and they'll think it means a physical place, like there's a specific place that David's looking to live at. I don't believe that what it means, and even if it does, what I want you to think about is when you think about a house, when you think about your house, when you think about your home, if you have worked really hard at making your house a home, you'll hear that phrase said. You'll hear where there are instances where someone's just worked really hard, whether it's in the furniture that they pick, the color that they have, um, the decorations that they have around. They've done their best to make their house a home. Now, one of the stories that I would hear a lot in college is, taking the viewpoint of a like a stay-at-home mom, and they'll say that the goal that she's trying to achieve is doing her best to make that house a home for when the husband comes home from work, or when the children come home from school, that it's intended to lessen the anxieties that the kids are facing at school and lessen the stress and the strain of what the husband's facing at work. Now, this isn't saying that this is the only thing she should be doing is doing this responsible. That's not what I'm saying. I said that was the stereotype that you would typically hear about. I do think that there's some truth to it. I think the Bible teaches some truth to that, and maybe we can cover that in a different video. The idea that I'm trying to emphasize is the fact that there's a place that you go that when you get there, it's preferably free from the cares and distresses of the world, and it's a place where the family can gather and can be that family unit. Maybe I'm thinking too old school when I think about the idea of a family being at home, and they fellowship together at dinner, they talk to each other, they encourage each other. It's the idea of the home being that place of comfort and strength. And I think that's what David is saying here. He wants to dwell in fellowship with God, to dwell in the house of the Lord. Because think about it, he says all the days of his life, his entirety. He wants to do what he can to be in the presence of God, to live in his presence, to live in a place where the things that are done honor and glorify God. It says, and then if you look at it, it says to behold the beauty of the Lord. He wants to go to the place that God is present. And when he says the beauty of the Lord, he's not looking at him and going, oh, he's pretty. But what he's doing is he's looking at his character. He's looking at who he is. When we talk about God, we talk about the idea of the characteristics that God has or that he is. When you read that God is love, when you see that God is holy, there are attributes that we ascribe to God. And when you behold, when you look at who he is, who his character is, you look at the things that he does, and you see how much he loves you and that he cares about you and he does these things for you. It's easy to say, wow, I want to be in that presence. Do you have a friend that's always encouraging, always helpful to you? Not a quote goody two shoes, not someone that does it for pride, but they're just such a comfort to be around. And then when you get around them and you realize just how good of a person they are, or how they try to be, and how kind they are, or how much they care about that friendship they have with you, it's easy to say, man, I really want to be around that person more. Honestly, it's part of the foundation you should find in when you're looking at a relationship. It's a person that you just genuinely want to be around because they help you to be a better person. It says to behold the beauty and to inquire in his temple. it's to try to find out, how can I be more like him? How can I be more like you? See, Christian, if you're listening to this video today, have you asked yourself, how am I being more like God? You know, our previous videos, we talked about Philippians chapter 2, and we talked about having a mind like God. Well, here we are trying to learn, how can we do more things to be like God? How can we do the things to be righteous, to be holy, to be love, to be kindness, to be merciful? Are we able to do this one for another? So the challenge I have for you today, one, are you spending time in God's house? Not necessarily church, although I think you should go, but more importantly, in fellowship with him. Are you looking and desiring that one thing to be like God? And then secondly, are you actually trying to be more like him? Are you trying to show those attributes? Anyway, that's all I got for you today. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Until the next time, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.